And I'm just getting on a couple of minutes after the mark of 7 p.m. I'm just adjusting my microphone here. Welcome everyone from me, Fazila Bijo, here in Cape Town, South Africa. If you're unaware, it's autumn, fall for my American friends, and we tend to have amazing autumn days. This past weekend has been absolutely amazing and brilliant in terms of just picture this beautiful sun, no clouds, and balmy sea breezes. And we go into a little bit more of a cooler week ahead, but you know, this is not the weather report. I've just been very grateful in terms of what I get to experience here in South Africa. And on that note, what a week it has been for South Africa. Making the headlines for various reasons, but there's always a lesson and an opportunity in all of this. In terms of today's live stream, I have been reflecting on what I most want to share, what would I want to bring through today, or what is available to come through today. And I've been listening, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about, or if you haven't, I'm bringing it in here right now, this May 24, and it has to do with the planets, the transit of Saturn in Aries. Being an energy healer, being an empathic healer, which means that I tune into energies. I feel the energies of people, I feel the energies of places, and I also get to connect with the collective. And the collective is not just consciousness in terms of humanity, in terms of the energies that are prevailing, which is what everybody actually brings through themselves. If an individual is not aware of their emotional state, their feelings, their thoughts, it can be quite unfiltered, and that's whatever someone is experiencing, and especially if they're experiencing it through the filters of their past memories, their past experiences, their beliefs about whatever that may be, whatever that experience might be, it gets filtered to the rest of us. We are all connected. I've had experience of seeing this web of creation. I haven't spoken about this before, but I had I've had the experience where it was at a time when I was navigating through my dad having his experiences around his health, where he was not well. My thoughts and feelings were quite triggered around his mortality and what he was experiencing. But I also was shown that I could either view it as a tragedy, and I'm by no means saying it was not a deep experience, or I could be available to what it was showing me from my perspective. And this was even years before. So it was around the period of 2014, and my dad passed in 2018. So this was at a time when, yes, I'd been on this path of awakening and spirituality, and I was very deep in terms of the shamanic traditions, which is to really work with the shadow. And if anybody knows, in terms of shamanic tradition, we talk about the three worlds: the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. The lower world being where a lot of fear, a lot of the shadow, a lot of what we are not, we're afraid, we are not going to be willing to look into those aspects. And I learned to walk, what the shamanic tradition taught me was to walk between worlds. walk between the world of the shadow and the light, walk, and even that was a limitation, because everything exists, and that's what I know now. Everything exists and everything is God. There's nothing to be negated around any experience. But at that time, I think it was around 2017, I remember that these experiences taught me to just be aware of being in the moment, be aware of what is available at that time. And there were times when, and I lived away from, I lived in another city, in terms of, with my husband. My parents lived in Durban. I lived in Johannesburg, city of gold. And I used to make a trip to Durban once a month because my dad there were times that he required intensive treatment, etc. And I remember the one particular morning, it must have been about 3 in the morning, and I was talking to my dad. I got to enjoy the connection. We had some conversations that were really deep and meaningful. We talked about everything. By then, there was nothing that I ever felt I could not speak to him about. And so that particular morning, I was quite tired. I'd been, I knew that I was very much emotional. I had lots of feelings and thoughts going on around how my dad was coping. But it was that particular morning I was awake with him. And as I was speaking to him, it must have been about 3 in the morning, I became aware of a shift in energy in the room. And I realized after the experience that my psychic vision was tuned in, because there were no emotional filters, and there was none of the barriers to my intellect jumping in to say you are or you aren't seeing anything here. And I told my dad, I'm actually seeing streams of light. But as the streams of light came through, what I saw was the intersections of light, and it was in a golden white color. And since then, there are many people who themselves see energy have actually confirmed what I was seeing. And looking at that in terms of how the interconnection of how everything around, the buildings, the furniture, everything was in this connection points, and it had lit up. So I didn't speak, like I said, I didn't speak about it at the time, but now it really, in terms of where I am in my path and the downloads and my guidance and all of that comes through, I get to really have a deeper awareness around this. And so we are all connected. So what we each hold, past, present, and the future, what we wish to create, is brought into the energy of the collective. And like I said, what I most wanted to speak about today is the personal revolution that's actually happening. And knowing and understanding, but being conscious of who and what is worthy of your time. That's something that's been coming up for me quite a lot. And since last year, I've been encouraged to become aware of when something is out of alignment, is to be aware and be present with that. I used to, in the past, have this level of sadness sometimes when things would come to an end. And I'm particularly speaking about certain mentors I've journeyed with, certain teachers. And it all started to come to a head in 2014, when I was about to step into the shamanic journeys in the world. Around then, I remember having this conversation with a teacher of mine, and I had met her through color therapy and all of the work I did with understanding how color and energy works and what it means to truly connect with color. And I remember in 2014, I was feeling the sadness that this had come to an end. I could feel it, and I was hesitant to speak about it. And at a pivotal moment, I chose to have the conversation with this particular teacher, and she gracefully received that. And it gave me quite a lot of confidence that I was doing what was best for me as well. And so I had that level of awareness that followed through with this, because the only thing that's going to keep happening is it's going to take longer and longer for me to express that this particular part of my journey and my path, this had come to an end. It didn't come to a full end, but it definitely in the day-to-day. And I found then that as I was willing to leave the safety of those shores, I could step into the next evolution. And that was the shamanic world, and what I then experienced, and the amazing people that I met. And I met another mentor, and from there on, I went into working, learning, understanding about energy and the shadow aspects of ourselves. I learned how to really be with those parts of self that I would have previously negated and not wanted to engage with. And so from 2017, and I'm just in my, 2014, till 2020, there was this expansion around my consciousness on that level. And then from about 2020, I got to experience the next chapter. And at that time, again, it came up that I was no longer in alignment. I could feel within myself that I had to step into the next level and the next chapter. And so today I was looking at what is the message in all of this transit with Saturn in Aries, and what does it mean for us on the collective level? I'm very aware that we are not to give away our power to something outside. But we're all energetic, and that's what I was talking about earlier on. We're connected in terms of the web of life, in terms of the web of creation. In certain traditions, we talk about the unity grid, the crystalline grid, the ley lines of the earth that are very, very pivotal to certain energy points on our planet. And so one of the big things that I learned was that in terms of the planetary bodies, they have a certain vibration and a frequency and its energy, and that energy comes into certain alignment points with where we are in our galaxy. And so there's an energy that's coming through. And so Saturn, we know that there are pivotal moments for anyone who's understanding of astrology, or even if you don't have to have this background. But Saturn is the great awakener and change. Now, what does it mean? And it has no meaning. I'd say that. I can sound very contradictory at times, and I'm willing to be there. Just stick with me. So it doesn't have to have the meaning that that has been programmed into the collective. Number one, there's an energy that's available. What can we do with it? It's calling for us to realize that this indeed is a great time of change. This indeed is a great time of the opportunities. But opportunities, my friends, are a bit limiting because we have possibilities. And I talk about this in one of my videos. It's one of the pre-recorded videos that I have, the teaching videos I have on my channel. Opportunities are going to come dressed in a three-piece suit. And it will look great on the outside, but it doesn't have the glitter and the shine that we immediately get hooked into. Possibilities, on the other hand, show up in overalls and they look like a lot of work. But that possibility, when we've done the work, and this is about ourselves, when we've done the work, it goes on to translate into the results, the rewards, etc., that we've been looking for. So I'm going to give you a personal reflection on from my perspective. When I look at patterns and I look at energy and what's coming up, everybody is talking about how the last in 30 years Saturn had been transiting, and I may put some notes here. Saturn transited into Aries in 1996 to 1998. Now, we can either decide, oh, this is bullshit, don't believe it, and that's fair. Or we could look at some of the patterns. Now, when I work with clients, I help to clear the blocks and the patterns and the and change the beliefs, because there's a certain place from which we have been creating things if we are unconscious about what the pattern is, what the belief is, or what's the memory that's holding a program here. So I went back and I looked at 1996 to 1998. Wow, those were big years in terms of the big lessons, but the big change that came through. For me, in 1996, I got thrown off a horse. August 1996 wasn't so pleasant. I'd gone on vacation, and I remember thinking it would be fun to go for a horse ride. My cousin was the one who rode horses, and she said to me, "Come with me. It'll be safe. I'll take you on. You can ride. Sit on the horse with me." And I remembered some of the more pivotal moments at that time. It was, oh, it seems fun. Anyway, picture this: me jumping up on a horse, and when I was up on that horse, I realized it is damn high, and I went with it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is such a good idea. And she takes off, and her little brother, he was about 4 or 5 at the time, decided, as little kids do often, that it was a good idea to have some fun. And his idea of fun was to get the horse to go faster, so that we could go faster on the horse, was to throw pebbles at this poor animal. Anyway, the horse bolted. I got thrown off. I remember just hitting the ground. And my biggest concern, so when I fell on my left hand forward, my biggest concern, because of the pain I was feeling in my face, was that I'd lost my front teeth. And I was in shock. I was in pain as well. But I remember getting up, going to the mirror, rinsing out my mouth. There was a lot of blood that started to rush out my nose. But I saw everything still okay. I calmed down a little bit, but I was taken to the emergency room, and long story short, I had fractured my nose, fractured my arm, and then I'd hurt my hip on the left side. So there was a lot of pain that I'd had on the left side. And so what this taught me in terms of that time was, as I look back now, there were big shifts that were happening, and certain parts of me were in a bit of hesitation. As I mentioned, in 1996, had I not gone on that trip to Johannesburg, I would not have known what the place was like. Yes, I had the accident, but I healed, and by the end of that year, one of the things that accident brought about for me and an awakening. In fact, there were 2 pivotal things. Having had the surgery to have my nose reset, it awakened in me this level of connection with my family, especially with my dad. And I found that I did not want to hold back in terms of being affectionate, but speaking to my dad, and I really wanted to foster a stronger relationship with him because of that accident, following that accident. But then I got a bit bolder, and then I had this impetus within me that I wanted more. And that was what a seeming accident, terrible event, etc., had awoken in me, is I desire to have, there are more things I want to pursue, and dreams, etc. And so I made the choice to move from Durban in the east coast of South Africa to, there was an opportunity for me to move to our head office. I used to be a market researcher in my earlier years of my career. And that research position was very much about what sits within me in terms of my passion. I love really understanding, looking at information, making sense of it, crunching through stuff. And so this is the thing I realized, even in my earlier years of where I started out, there was always this expression within me. There was always this desire to make sense of, as much as we can on the human level, intellectual level, but also to help me understand, how does the world work? What is going on? I started that out with a corporate career in terms of market research, and it held, it was really great in terms of me having this expression. But I realized it took me so far. And then it was time to make a switch. And something interesting, some of the pieces that I've gathered over the years is really how does reality work? How do things fit together, etc. And so bringing in the understanding that there is great change. We have personal revolutions that are going on, and the evolution within. But the personal revolution is with all of this energy of change and transformation. As above, so below. So whatever is going on outside in the universe, it is also taking place within each individual. And the biggest thing that I've come to understand is, at this point, is what is worthy and who is worthy of my time, my energy, my focus, my attention. When I look at what we are standing, and we're really standing on the unfolding of this time and energy and this collective consciousness and awakening. Flashback to 30 years ago, what did that teach me? It taught me that just getting to be present, feeling there, and there were moments when that was very, very strong and real, is follow this energy. And I did. And I'm so fucking glad I did. One of the moments in 1997 was me in the car with my dad saying, Dad, I want to pursue this position in Johannesburg. And by the way, then in 97, I created quite a ripple in terms of my community and all of that, because it was really not heard of, a young woman going off to another city. I mean, this is South Africa, guys. We'd just come out of the apartheid era, 3 years into democracy, and there was lots of possibility. And then I thought it was opportunity, but there was lots of possibility. And so I pursued that. Moving to Johannesburg brought a whole lot of other challenges with it, but I persevered and I grew stronger. What I now know, 30 years later, is nothing is impossible. Yeah, there may be challenges that feel like they are delays and it slows us down. But when you truly, and I spoke about this in my live stream last week, is really connecting in and tuning into who you are. Who am I? The more you can drop into that every day in terms of this personal revolution. How do I truly feel about this particular thing that's coming up in my awareness? Or as I've been seeing since last year, And by the way, I get the kind of get the downloads and the energy coming through to me, and the changes that happen with me. I'm ahead of the curve. They come through before it lands. And so since last year, I've been getting the nudges to make changes. There's certain, hey, Neville O'Clock, hello. So there's certain changes that have been making itself known. And it's not because it's good or bad. It's just because I've come to that particular juncture, and it's not even a crossroad, because we have more than just two options available. There are many possibilities. And the choice really becomes, what is worthy of my attention? What do I want to pour myself into? What would I love to most see come alive for me in my reality? And it just really is about that presence. And it really, and it's not even, I'm just going to gather the energy that comes in right now. Because most people, when they talk about presence, and it seems like just this zen all the time, that I will be eloquent, perfect. And I guess those are all of my old paradigms coming through. But I'm giving you what I know as well, that a lot of us have this expectation that if you're at a certain level of awareness and consciousness, things should just be flowing. Things should just be happening, where you are not going to, you're going to have everything perfect and everything's going to be working out, etc. And hell no, that ain't the case. Why? Because there's more than what you have decided or intended or have an expectation around. And that what I'm experiencing, and I know that even with my clients as well, is the more we detach from expectation, the more we learn not to be attached to the outcome, but to become the presence of that beingness. So when I was talking about the job opportunity, and I said opportunity because yes, there were certain things that weren't in alignment, but they were as well. So like I said, there's so many contradictions. It's a paradox. There were many stepping stones, and how I would do it now is, what am I available to? What is this? What emotions and feelings and thoughts am I having about this? Am I recreating the past, or am I available in this moment to truly tap into me? Now, you can't see this, guys, but solar plexus, the center of power, the heart, the center of translating your feelings and emotions, and then the crown and third eye. What am I thinking? What am I perceiving? And your throat chakra, about what are you expressing? And I'm not negating, and not even negating, I'm not forgetting about your root chakra is about grounding all of this. And sacral is the expression of it into energy. And I come into my personal power, feeling it truly, that desire that's inspired in my heart, and the actions that I must take. Now, that's the day-to-day, that's the moment-to-moment. And becoming available to the presence of being within. It sounds very airy-fairy, or it might sound like it's intangible, but it's because we are not actually disciplined, or we haven't chosen that way of being before. So if you're wanting to navigate past some of the data, the stuff, the noise, the distractions, is finding and creating that space just to drop within. Is this truly worthy of my time? the who, the what, the why, the how, and all of that, is it truly worthy? And would I want to invest? Would I want to cultivate? Would I want to grow even more of this? And if it is a no, ask yourself, what would be worthy of me? What would be worthy of my time? What would be worthy of me seeing this in my reality? Because the more we focus on that, the more it's going to become a conclusion, an assumption, and a reality. And so it is a great time of evolution and revolution and transformation. But it also is a time of our own evolution, revolution, and transformation. It's always been. But this is where we are getting into the convergence. As above, so below. We are 100% responsible for our reality, how we respond, what actions we take, and what we create. So that radical responsibility of everything starts from me. Everything is me. And so even what I've said, what is worthy of my time, who is worthy of my time, doesn't even feature then. Because when we've truly connected and calibrated into where we are moving from, the alignment shows up. And this was something that came up this weekend. When we think we've got to make a choice, that's actually not being in the presence of the moment. It's not even being in the awareness of who we are and where we are moving from. Because there isn't a choice when you're already being it. There isn't a choice available because you've already decided, you've already chosen. And even decided is not the appropriate verbiage here right now. So let me gather up on that. There is no choice because you've already become that version. Now, there are many aspects to this. And if you're wondering how you can move from where you're at to really becoming the alignment, becoming the energy and the version of that which you'd most love to have, feel free to drop me a message, connect with me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation. If you are wanting to come into more alignment, clear the noise, clear the distractions, reach out to me. I may have a few things that are available to you that you can either work on independently by yourself, or we can discuss how you get to your next level. If you have any comments, any questions, please pop them down below. And yeah, big week. Next 3 months, is it 3 months? June, July, August. Yep, till about September. The next couple of months are going to seem like big moves are happening, and it may very well be that things that you have been holding off on, if there is something that's coming, it's feeling like there's a closure happening, become mindful of that. The other thing that we're in is just a reminder to everybody, if you're interested in numerology, the energy of this year is a 9-year in terms of numerology, which is that the energy of closures, things coming to an end. And if you want that, the support of this energy, maybe dialogue with yourself. What are the things that I've known I'm needing to let go of? What are the things that I'm needing to detach from? What are the things that I know within myself that it's not in alignment? Notice I haven't said not good or bad, etc., because all of that is just it's the labels, it's the meaning we've given to whatever the outside circumstances might be. The energies that are available are to help us get into alignment. It presents us with the reflection and the mirror of whatever's going on outside. What part is it that I hold within me? And so you can harness this energy by doing a little bit of reflection, introspection, meditation on it, journal. There are lots of insights that come from when we put pen to paper. And so today, I'd been sitting with the inquiry of what is this most showing me? It shows me how much I've grown, shows me how much in the past 30 years of the experiences, the trial and error and all of that, and what I would do differently now going into this next wave of energy. I encourage you to do the same, not for you to go and dredge up the past, but look at what are the patterns that are still seemingly continuing now. If the patterns are not there, what are the themes? That's going to give you some good direction. For me, my themes are in my evolution now. It's the evolution and my path in terms of my my awakening, but in terms of the work, the energy, the work I do with my clients, all of that. This is what is coming up for me in terms of the great expansion, my spiritual development, training, mentorships, and all of that. They have been undergoing a radical transformation, and so the inner transformation has been happening. It's now translating into an outer experience. And so there is a change that I've been seeing is sweeping through, and that's there. So those are the themes for me, amongst a few other things. I would encourage you to go and look at themes, look at experiences, also look at how have your relationships changed. Who are your relationships with? What are the stronger ones that have endured? What have they shown you? So there's so much available. I trust this serves you in a meaningful way. Thank you for being part of this channel. I will catch you in the next one. If there's something that you want me to expand on, please drop a message here, reach out to me an email, and I will be more than happy to do that. Have a great week ahead, the one that you create, and may you have a peace that is beyond understanding. Lots of love.